Executive Suite with WPRI.com reporter Ted Nesi.
Rhode Island is enjoying a renaissance in agriculture. With 10% of the state now classified as farmland, the number of farms in Rhode Island has jumped from fewer than 900 a decade ago to more than 1,200. Many of the agricultural newcomers are small, part-time operations that sell their crops at the state's thriving network of farmers markets, which are starting to open up once again as spring turns to summer. This week on Executive Suite, we go back to the land with the owner of Cranston's Blue Skies Farm, Christina Dedora, and Farm Fresh Rhode Island Executive Director Noah Fulmer. Welcome to Executive Suite. I'm Ted Nesi. Noah, Christina, thank you for joining me today.
My pleasure.
Yeah. And I know we're taking you away from a nice day to do some farming, probably.
Yes, a lot of work to do.
Always, right?
Always, yeah.
In farming life. Noah, so I knew you from my Providence Business News days when I was reporting on the environmental economy and agriculture, but some people may not know Farm Fresh Rhode Island. They might recognize, I'm just going to hold it up for a second here, we have the bumper sticker, I Heart My Farmer, that people have on their cars a lot. Can you give us a sense, what is Farm Fresh Rhode Island?
Sure. Yeah, Farm Fresh is a non-profit charity based in Providence, and we work statewide and increasingly further in southern New England to connect farmers and everyone who eats with good food. And we run farmers markets. We have a distribution network that works from farm to table with chefs in grocery stores, hospitals, and schools, and we also do some processing. So everything that's the behind the scenes of the food system, not involved in growing. But
and I think people might help people understand, where did the idea come from? What was the impetus for Farm Fresh getting founded?
Yeah, it was back in 2004, and we were just seeing a big disconnect between the food that was being grown in the state and its ability to reach people in the state, where we had farmers producing really wonderful fresh foods, top quality, really delicious, really healthy, and they were having they were struggling to make ends meet, struggling to find markets for their products, and they were potentially going out of business or not seeing the next generation as being able to be part of that farm. And at the same time, there was in the cities and everywhere in Rhode Island, really, people who were not eating foods that were keeping them healthy. And so you see kids with obesity and diabetes symptoms at very young ages, and you kind of wonder, like, what's this disconnect where we have all this potential for fresh, healthy food, and we're not connecting it with the people who are here, who could be a market for the farmers and also sustain the communities around the state.
Farm Fresh also, it seems like, was in the right place at the right time, or was part of something that was growing. We looked, the Census of Agriculture, which the federal government does every few years, saw a 42% increase in the number of farms in Rhode Island from 2002 to 2007. Second most, biggest increase in the country, only 4% increase across the country. So it's 10 times more growth in farms in Rhode Island. Crop and livestock sales also up significantly. Did that surprise you when that numbers came out, or had you been seeing that on the ground?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many new small farms popping up around the state, and in some ways it speaks to just how many farms we've lost over the past couple of decades, that we were bound for higher heights, but also I think we're in the right kind of place where the people live very close to the farms. You can go 15 minutes out of any of the cities and be in farmland. And so that connection can be really strong, and we've tried to make that really strong through farmers market programs and CSAs and the Farm to Chef network. And that has allowed for a number of smaller farms to start up or to expand in ways that they weren't necessarily able to without that marketplace availability before.
We're going to talk about one example in a second with Christina, but before we switch gears there, I want to ask, obviously those numbers are from 2007. We won't get the new agriculture census until next year, I'm told. So do you think, what was the impact of the recession on the agriculture business in Rhode Island? Do you think we're going to see fewer farms, or do you think it's continued to grow?
I think it's different depending on the type of farm that we're looking at. And in terms of the food producing farms, there's been consistent growth throughout the recession, which I think is really impressive and a testament to the type of work that's going on and towards the type of community-based food that we're all reaching for, and that's part of a national discussion about how we eat. And it's definitely, Rhode Island is a leader in many ways in terms of making those connections from farm to table, and that's had really good results for the farms. The farms that are involved with nursery and other non-food production have had a really hard time because the nursery market hasn't necessarily synced up with the real estate crash. There has been less investment in ornamental crops and things like, of that nature. So that has definitely caused a lot of nursery people to think about vegetables maybe for the first time, and just caused some transition in those areas. But there's a huge potential for people growing food. I would say right now the demand far outstrips the supply that we have, and so everything with farming takes a year or two of investment in terms of planning the land, and acquiring the land is a whole other piece of the puzzle that is still a big challenge in a state that has really high property values. So for all that strong demand, it takes a couple of years for the supply to catch up.
To get that in.
It
there.
is catching up.
So Christina, want to talk about Blue Skies Farm, 2 acres in Cranston where you grow, I believe, flowers, herbs, and vegetables,
Yes.
sounding a little like the type of farming that Noah was just talking about there. We have some of your products right here in the front. We're going to talk more about what we're looking at specifically there. But
Great.
first, I'm just curious, how did you get into farming?
It's a really good question, and it happened pretty amazingly for me. I had gone to France when I was 28 to study French. I quit my corporate job, cashed in my retirement fund, a little young, but I did it. And I studied French for 9 months, and then I thought, I still want to stay in the country. There's still a lot of language I need to learn. So I found a job on a 12-acre organic vegetable farm.
Where in France?
It's north of Toulouse, so it's about 5 hours south of Paris.
Okay.
And I was so amazed. The taste of fresh vegetables right off the farm is incredible. I had never tasted food so good. And I know part of it was because I was actually harvesting the vegetables and growing the vegetables, and it's very, very labor intensive. The first few weeks I was there, I couldn't even get out of bed. I had to roll because I was so not used to doing such physicality.
Sure.
So I worked on the farm for about 5 months. And then when I came back home, at that point I didn't know I wanted to farm, but I came back home and I realized I don't really want to go back into corporate America. And I really miss eating good, healthy food. I'm going to try to farm. And at that point I was living in Massachusetts, and that was about 20 years ago almost, and it was not a friendly environment back then at all. It was a completely different picture.
How so? What do you mean?
When I would ask people for help, other farmers, they would look at me and they'd say, sorry, I can't give you my secrets. I can't help you because I'm barely making it. My little niche that I have to keep it. I'm not going to share anything with you. So unfortunately, I was not a successful farmer when I was in Massachusetts. I tried to do too much too soon, got myself into some financial difficulty, gave it up for a little while, balanced my books, came back to Rhode Island where I grew up, and I was reading the paper one day and I saw a little thing in the Providence Journal. It said, "Do you want to farm?" And I thought, yeah, I want to try this again. Called up the number, and it was Southside Community Land Trust, which is located in South Providence, and they're another nonprofit. And their mission is to help people grow food. So it was a very progressive program. The Department of Environmental Management owns a 50-acre piece of land in western Cranston.
The state?
The state of Rhode Island, the DEM. They own it. They lease it out to Southside Community Land Trust, who in the past 10 years, via grant writing and private funding, put in about $1 million into refurbishing this old, broken down dairy farm. So even though it's 50 acres, about only 20 are farmable. There are 7 farmers, one including myself. We have everything. I mean, it's really a farmer's dream, because I don't have $1 million to put into it. So we have deer fencing, heated greenhouses, irrigation system, tractors, and we have each other, which is really important. Farming is a very, very difficult profession. You have so many things against you. So when you have somebody else to talk to and somebody else to say, like, what's this bug, or why isn't my kale growing, or
what's this bug? Yeah.
what's eating my Swiss chard? There's a wealth of knowledge among the other farmers. We range from early 20s to mid-60s, so it's a real diverse group. So I've been farming at, it's called Urban Edge Farm, but Blue Skies has been part of it.
That's the entire property you're talking about?
The entire property, yep. So Blue Skies has been farming there for 8 years. This is the start of my 8th year. I was a part-time farmer for 4 years and then just became a full-time farmer.
And how's it going?
It's good, it's good. My business is actually doubling this year. I've hired a few more people. I'm hoping, I'm definitely going to get to be able to farm the full 2 acres, which in the past I was only able to farm 1 because I was a part-time farmer. But this year it's going to go well, and we've had a really good spring. It's been a normal spring. This rain we just had the past few days has been tremendous. Even though we have irrigation, you really want Mother Nature to do the watering, because it just makes such better crops.
Makes the difference. All right, we have to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk much more about life on the farm and the growth of farmers markets. So stick with us. You're watching Executive Suite. Welcome back to Executive Suite. I'm Ted Nisi, and I'm joined by Noah Fulmer. He's Executive Director of Farm Fresh Rhode Island. You may know them from their I Heart My Farmer bumper stickers and the farmers markets they do all over the state. And also Christina Dedora. She's the owner of Blue Skies Farm in Cranston. And we were talking before the break, Noah, about Christina's, so how she came into this. She's running a 2-acre operation. Obviously, a lot of it's her own sweat equity there.
Absolutely.
How common is Christina as sort of the face of farming in Rhode Island, this new revival we're seeing?
It's very common, especially for newer farmers who are trying to figure out a way to start a farming business. Again, it's hard to come across a lot of land all at once, and it's expensive for someone who is, it's very capital intensive. And it's not necessarily that there are systems in place to identify where that would even be. So sometimes we hear from people who have the land who want to connect it with a farmer, and it's just like making sure those discussions happen in the right way are challenging. But there's a lot of people who have been able to start with a couple of acres and then slowly but surely expand.
And your website, the Farm Fresh Rhode Island website, is amazing. They have a posting where you can place classified ads. And I've seen so many connections made there with people that have land that want to rent it out, or farmers looking for specific amounts of land, mostly on a small scale basis. And your website is an amazing resource for farmers.
What's the URL, Noah?
It's farmfresh.org, and then there's a land job stuff board. So people looking to work in the field, or people looking for workers, and likewise with land or tractors or whatever.
So it sounds like the importance of just having common resources where farmers can talk to each other and people can work together, it can't be overstated here.
Yeah, and that's a lot of what was missing. And it was over the years when agriculture was in the decline and everyone thought that farms were just going to go away in the state. A lot of those networking, the glue of the sector really started to crumble as well. So it's about putting those pieces back in place in many ways.
Christina, I remember there's one of my mom's favorite movies was Holiday Inn, and Bing Crosby gives up being an entertainer and buys a farm in Connecticut and has a nervous breakdown quickly because he's up so early and he's working all day, and it's not the relaxing life he planned as a gentleman farmer. What's your typical day like farming?
Well, most people think that I'm up at 5 and at the farm at 6. To be honest with you, I get there between 8 and 9, sometimes
like an office
even
worker.
10, exactly. Sometimes I stay till 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. Other times, if it's raining and I'm cold and too dirty, I'll leave at 5. So it's very flexible, except this time of the year. This time of the year, you want to get as much as you can in the ground quickly because you need to start producing. Farmers markets are starting, they've already started. But it's 7 days a week. I do not have a normal life. It's not normal. I have to, if I want to take a day off, I have to plan on having someone cover the greenhouse because you have to water at least 2 or 3 times a day inside the greenhouse.
And the best days for farmers markets are on Saturdays when everyone else has off.
Exactly.
So
yeah. And now there's many farmers markets on a Sunday. So it's really
it's around the clock.
It's around the clock.
How about help? You mentioned staff. I mean, do you have people who work with you?
Yes, I do. I have 3 part-time people, all different. Some have no experience. Some people have. One girl's been working for me for 3 years, and it's great to have someone that's experienced. I'm starting to delve into medicinal herbs, so I hired someone that knows a little bit about medicinal herbs. There's a lot of folks out there that want to get into farming.
And let's talk, let's make it concrete for folks. Here on this side, over here, closer to where I'm sitting, tell me about what we're looking at. This is right from Blue Skies Farm. What are we looking at here from your farm?
That's lemon verbena. The tall plant is lemon verbena.
Right here?
Yes. And the one that's just below it, a little shorter, that's lemon thyme. And on the other side is orange mint.
Let's see if we can get a shot up there of the orange mint on the other side. Now, how recently did you pull these out of the ground? There it is.
These were planted about a month ago. Yep. Maybe a month and a half ago from seed.
And just pull them up today?
Yep, exactly, yep.
So Blue Skies, as you mentioned, it's actually part of a 50-acre property,
Yes.
Southside Community Land Trust, and the DEM work on that. I mean, would it be possible for you to farm if you just had come to Rhode Island and said, I'm going to buy a farm and start farming? Is that feasible?
Absolutely not. I don't come from a family that has a lot of access to land. I don't have $1 million in the bank. I don't really want to take on a mortgage for $400,000 when sometimes you don't know if you're going to have a crop failure. So having the opportunity to work on leased land has been tremendous, because I couldn't do it otherwise. And I'm getting a little bit older, and I don't really want to take on the responsibility of building a farm from scratch.
No, and to go back to you for a sec on this, I remember covering this. Land value and taxes actually are a big issue for Rhode Island. As I said, at the top 10% of the state is now farmland, but actually making it so the people with the land can be connected with people who are farming can be difficult. I mean, do you see people who are just buying up land and becoming a farmer? Is that just not really feasible economically in Rhode Island these days?
It's not very often that happens. It happens in a couple of cases where people do have the ability to do that, and they want to put that land into production. And that's a really exciting thing. It's providing a lot of amazing food, and in some cases they're sharing it with an opportunity for other farmers to use that land. I mean, I think a huge piece of it is also the financing of that land and making sure that financing is available. In a lot of the rest of the country where there's more commodity-oriented crop production, where maybe they're only growing soy or they're only growing corn, there are financial models that are very easy for banks to digest and lend out money to people who want to purchase land and take business risks, because it's not seen as so risky. With this type of small diversified agriculture, there aren't as many models out there, and there aren't as many actually government policies. One of the biggest lenders in agriculture in the country is the federal government through the Farm Credit Administration, and they're trying just now to figure out how do we incorporate all of these new farmers who are much smaller scale than what has been like dominant agriculture in the country, and how do we make sure they have the financing available that they need and make sure that their businesses can thrive for the future.
One organization that's affiliated with the USDA is the Farm Service Agency, and each state has a county office. And they've been, I actually took out an operating loan a few years ago, and they're trying to simplify the process even more than the time that I took out the loan. It's a very friendly agricultural world out there. I was able. One of the criteria is that you do not qualify. I can't go. I'll go to a regular bank and I'll get denied, because they're not going to take my risk. But so when I get that denial letter, the Farm Service Agency says, okay, we're here to help you. We understand that it's a difficult way to make money, and we're going to give you a loan.
We have to take another break, but before we get to that, I want to tell people the Rhode Island Food Policy Council, a volunteer group, did want me to say its next meeting is coming up June 25th at Kent Hospital, so you can get involved with these issues. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk more about what kept Noah here after he graduated from Brown University, and more about the farmers market. Stick with us on Executive Suite. Welcome back to Executive Suite. I'm Ted Nisi. My guests are Farm Fresh Rhode Island's Noah Fulmer and Christina Dedora from Blue Skies Farm in Cranston. And farmers market season is here. You mentioned it's part of why you're working Saturdays and Sundays now, Christina. Noah, give us a sense of where are farmers markets in Rhode Island? How many do we have at this point? It seems like it's grown a lot.
Yeah, there are about 55 outdoor summer markets in Rhode Island, and they are opening up week by week to the point where, in June we'll probably have every single one of them opening, and they are in almost every town of the state. And every day of the week you can find one. So it's pretty amazing what the network out there is, and it's been great for farmers. And we have the winter markets that have closed in recent weeks, and that's something that's been new in our state as well, to have, I think, 4 or 5 different winter markets going weekly as an opportunity for farmers to grow year-round, people to eat local year-round, and to grow a good thing. And
how important, Christina, are farmers markets to your business model, to sell your products?
It's about 60% of my sales, farmers markets, and every year I seem to add another one to the weekly.
How many, where are your big ones right now?
I just finished the winter market in Pawtucket, which has been my first year. It was great. There's about 50, 60 vendors. People come from Boston, all over Rhode Island. So that just finished. Pawtucket Village Farmers Market in Cranston. That started, it's a Saturday. I'm doing a new one. It's called the Northwest Farmers Market. It's in Chepachet. That's on a Sunday. Thunder Mist Health Center is the sponsor of a second-year market, which is in West Warwick, right across from their health center. They kind of connect their clients to eating healthy. And I think that's it.
Nice.
Yep.
And Noah, that's enough. Yeah. Noah, and you have here something I like, if you can hold it up. Rhode Island Seafood, another part of our food world. This is a new initiative this year. What are we looking at here and what's happening?
Sure, there's a new Rhode Island Seafood Marketing Collaborative, and the idea is to bring some of the attention to local seafood that we have going on with local agriculture. And actually, well, this is the new logo that is
beauty.
Brand new, hot off the press, and we're trying to use it to add, just that little bit of pizzazz to the food product that's here that otherwise, we harvest a lot of seafood here in the state, and it just doesn't necessarily get the attention that it could, and that that would translate into more value for the fishermen and for all the businesses associated in local seafood. It's a little bit different than local agricultural products in the sense that there's different kinds of licensing and regulation around that type of perishable product. And so what we're trying to work on is just getting that awareness raised about what's seasonal from our waters, because there is a seasonality to the type of fish out there. And also, what we harvest a lot of here in Rhode Island, where the opportunity is to really have an impact and help out local fishermen. I think as the ocean state, it's surprising that we don't know as much about seafood as we could, because we certainly are really
And
big.
You're not a native, Noah, right? Where are you from originally?
I am from New Jersey, which also has a nice coast.
The Garden State, of
but
course.
It is the coast.
And you came to Brown University, and you decided to stay. What kept you in Rhode Island?
I stayed in Rhode Island for Farm Fresh and all the excitement that we were creating around, connecting what was a really cohesive community of people and a cohesive group of farmers and the city, and there was that nice connection of Providence is a small city, and it's very easy to get outside of the city and make connections so that people are, rural and urban are all talking to each other. In the city itself, I live in Providence, and I appreciate that, unlike in New Jersey, I'm able to bike to work and have lots of really amazing cultural amenities.
Christina, we only have about 30 seconds left. If you could ask state leaders to do one thing to help the farmers thrive in Rhode Island, what would you ask them?
I think I would ask them to keep up the good work. They're doing an amazing job. Ken Ayers, he's our chief of agriculture. He's progressive. He's amazing. He knows how to keep farmers going, because it's a gruel. I guess I would also ask to keep the land prices down for any new farmers. That if there's certain protection rights that they can utilize to keep land values down. So let's preserve the land so we can bring on younger and more farmers, because we need.
And it's our food supply. Yeah.
And it's our food supply, which is really important. And I think that's what the Rhode Island Food Council is. Part of their mission is to try to figure out how we can eat more of our own food and not import tomatoes from 1,500 miles away.
All right, we'll end on that note. So farmfresh.org, you can find out where the farmers markets are this year. If you missed any of this show, you can catch it all on our website, WPRI.com. Thank you, Noah and Christina, for being with me. See you next week on Executive Suite.